The idea behind that Spect-Act word is it comes from a type of theatre called the theatre of the oppressed, in which there's no actors and spectators. That line is blurred, so spectators become spect-actors. And we've been developing something called forum theatre, which comes from theatre of the oppressed, in which the audience get to stop the play and get to interact and come in and change things. The idea is it's a space for dialogue, a space where we can learn things, a space where we can try things out, a rehearsal for reality.
The thinking behind Spect-Act was that as a company, we didn't just want to work on our own piece of theatre, but we also wanted to include a wider kind of group of people and participants. And we wanted to reach groups of people that were perhaps less likely to get involved.
The goal of Spect-Act was to bring together develop three community theatre companies. Bethany, looking at issues of homelessness, which is actually developed more to be about looking at addiction. Alma, looking at mental health issues, and Shakti, looking at domestic abuse.
And Spect-Act has been a 2-year project funded by Creative Scotland, and we began by just going along and working with members that came to those groups, seeing what they would like to make theatre about. So the first year was really trying to form groups and see what we might want to do. And then the second year was turning these groups into theatre companies. So now we have the Shakti Theatre Company, the Alma Theatre Company and the Bethany Theatre Company, who have all performed on many occasions and have recently performed in the Just Festival as part of the Fringe in August in Edinburgh. And we've also had a big community festival in May out of the blue. And as well as these three groups, we've also had the Active Inquiry Company, our central company, who've been creating work together as well. And we created a piece called The Fairground, looking at gender discrimination. So it's been a big, kind of quite complex 2-year project that we finally got to the end of.
So the idea was to work with 3 distinct community groups and to work with them to make their own pieces of theatre. So the idea would be over the 2 years that we would build a relationship with the groups and enable them to start thinking about themselves as being their own company. So creating a network of companies in Edinburgh.
And I think, one of the exciting things about this project is we haven't just stuck to that rigid model. Actually some of the groups, particularly the Shakti group, have realised that perhaps looking at that issue, forum theatre was not right for them. So they've made it interactive but in different ways. So that's an exciting thing about this project as well, that we've kind of started to question the form of forum theatre and the theatre of the oppressed. And that's again something we want to continue doing as we move forward.
I can remember us sitting in the Woodland Creatures pub thinking, putting in the application just over 2 years ago and thinking it was so ambitious to think we would have these 3 community theatre companies up and running, but we have. And they've just successfully performed at the Just Festival. So we have done what we set out to do with the Spect-Act project, which has been amazing, really.
I'd always been a drinker, but I was having episodes that were, I was going totally out of control, so I decided to take another path.
I was just taking about every drug's gone, let's say, and the next minute I wasn't caring about anybody. All I was caring about my next fix.
Active Inquiry have had an ongoing relationship with Bethany over a number of years, really, doing small projects, but we wanted to do a kind of long-term project. So we started going along, dropping into the men's group that they run and doing some theatre workshops there and trying to find people that were interested in developing and becoming a group. And we didn't have an issue that we were going to really work on. So we started making images and doing some improvisations and talking and discussing about what we might want to do. And it became apparent that everybody in the group either had a problem with an addiction and was in recovery, or knew someone quite close to them that either had a problem with addiction or was in recovery. So we decided that was going to be what we would work on to begin with.
I got locked up for 6 weeks, and you get a lot of time to sit and you get a lot of time on your hands to think about things, about your life. And it was a short, sharp shock.
I was just really unhappy. Didn't have my mother, didn't have my father, and I was just crying out, like, say for help.
I've always enjoyed acting, envisaging situations and coming across a theatre group that actually combines social issues with acting and devising, scripts and images and working together as a unit ticked two really big boxes for me. And I was just at a point in my recovery as well where I was coming out of my shell. I was looking for a bit of activity that I could sink my teeth into, and along came Active Inquiry, and I've been very, very happy attending the group since I started.
How I got involved with the group, say that there was a lady who actually came to the women's group one day and she said, would you like to say come to the drama group one day? And I said, nah, it's not for me. And the next minute I've been here ever since. And they're not getting rid of me that easily.
We started doing a lot of work on what is addiction, and the idea that addiction is something that is seen as an individual problem, but actually it's a much wider thing about society. So we began to work and make some images around addiction, and we came up with a play which was called Downhill Slalom, Uphill Struggle. And that was a piece about somebody who was a sports instructor, and because they were so busy in their job and busy with their family, they started taking some drugs to help them cope, and it showed kind of their story.
The first piece we did was a piece about recovery, and I played Mike, who was struggling, and he fell into addiction and then tried to get into recovery, and I was able to draw on a lot of personal experience to bring to the part. So yeah, there was quite a bit of me in Mike, and I think if you've lived it, you can be honest portraying it as well.
So that was kind of the first year we did, and then when we became the Bethany company, we had to have some decisions about whether we would continue with that theme, and everybody was happy to continue with that theme, felt that there was a lot more to explore, and so we developed a piece called The Interview. And The Interview told the story of somebody who had a problem with addiction, had been in prison because of this, and had come out and was trying to rebuild their lives, and they'd had an interview for a job that they really wanted. And the main story was that interview, but then we showed scenes in flashback and how they were affecting her in that interview, because I think that was one of the important things that came up in the group, that bad experiences stay with you for a long time, and particularly experiences with social work, with housing, with friends and family, and how difficult it is to rebuild your life, and how everything seems to be against you, even if you want to rebuild your life when you're in recovery. So that's the kind of process we went through with this group in Bethany, developing these two plays.
When I came to Shakti, I was seeking support because I was suffering from domestic abuse from my ex-husband, and I was actually very emotionally disturbed and felt very vulnerable and felt that I was desperate for support. So I came to Shakti, and they said that they have groups, Shakti women's groups that I could join. So I just came to one, and the acting group was one of those.
I found out because my ex-partner almost killed me, and then the police phoned Shakti Women's Head to kind of try to help me out of the crisis that I was going through. So that's how I found out about it.
Shakti has been about looking at domestic abuse and the reasons that domestic abuse exists and how we free ourselves from it individually and collectively. So we're very much working in the context of how do we actually make the world safe for women and girls, and one of the ways is to contribute with theatre, and theatre is an empowering way of women whose voices have not only not been heard but they've been suppressed and hurt and abused, to find their voice, to express their voice, to tell their story, to create theatre, to stand up on a stage and be seen and be heard. And our play was called Dancing in Freedom. So it's a way of us all finding our strength and our power and being seen and heard. What we have created is a safe space, and from that safe space, the women have told a story of the actual breakdown of a relationship. So the courage of the women involved in facing things and then actually wanting to tell that story has been inspiring and humbling.
It's a very slow process. It develops from one week to the next week. It's being with the people, being the freedom to express what's happened and being understood, but listened without judgment. And then usually what happens with my own friends is that they have a solution for my problem. They tell me how to deal with it. Actually, they don't have the solution. Whereas the drama group, what it does is it gives you opportunity to find the solution for yourself slowly, and it's a slow process. And it gives you a chance to regain your composure so that you begin to receive kind of your own strength stage by stage. And that's what the drama group does.
It made me feel like, I've got people around that can help me and people around that can actually talk to me and feel safe, feel like, even though I don't have family around here, but it feels like family.
So the piece of theatre we've created is called Dancing in Freedom, and it actually shows the dance of romance when you think everything's going to be great and you'll be with this person forever, and then the controlling and the disrespect and then the anger and then sometimes the actual physical violence, and then the woman has to rebuild her life. But we end up with something really positive, which is women supporting each other, women finding their strength and their power, and they dance in freedom. So we end up with that image of women dancing together in freedom. And there's been a lot of fun and a lot of laughter and a lot of dancing.
So it's kind of, it's light relief for people who really are an enormous amount of stress and learning how to change their lives.
The Alma project was started in 2010, and it was started by members and staff from the Stepping Stones project, which had been running for several years, was an education mental health project, so art therapy and therapeutic art groups. It works across the Lothians, supporting people with often severe and enduring mental health difficulties, providing education, challenging stigma, providing somewhere for people to come on a regular basis to take part in different kind of therapeutic tools. Not necessarily therapy, but that's sometimes offered as well.
I've had what they now call bipolar since I was about 21. That was my first episode. And so altogether it was 45 years of in and out of hospital and bipolar. And 7 years ago I decided that I would like to come off medication. And I did that over 18 months with the help of the doctors and so on. And now I don't take medication at all. I just sort of self-monitor.
I've got mental health problems. First mental health problem I had happened in 1987. I developed schizophrenia, and things started to get a bit out of control, things that were happening in my life back then.
Well, the drama especially for me is a great way to express yourself. And for so many years of my life I was unable to do that because I didn't feel anything. And then when feelings and emotions started to come back, I had to sort of put them into context. So the drama has been very, very useful for that. For example, I say to people, if you're standing at a bus stop and you want to go, not great, you might get put away for that or whatever, but then you get a chance to do that when you're here. You can be angry or whatever it is that they need for the production.
It makes me feel warm at the time when the audience laughs. It makes me feel warm. I must have done something right with the acting. I don't know if they've helped me, but there's somewhere to go. But I'm still the same nervous, frightened of people person that I always was. Although it's not cured me, I would advise them to go to a nice cosy places like that, and because they're always kind to people in it, and they encourage you to sing and act and all that.
With the play that we did in the first year, which was The Bare Necessities, that kind of came out of the fact that the project had to move venue. It was the 5th time that the venue had changed for the members, so we were in the middle of this big transition, and we're kind of looking at what did that feel like, what were the metaphors around having to be put out of where you just become comfortable, and having to re-find somewhere else. So we started thinking about Goldilocks and the Three Bears and being displaced and things. So through that we ended up with kind of feeling really strongly about the character of bears, and felt that that lent itself to how people are viewed with mental health difficulties. So they can be viewed as being a danger, but they can also be viewed as being very powerful and having a lot of strength of courage. So that was where we went with that. In the second half, we actually teamed up with another project. We teamed up with Age in Mind, so they brought with them quite a lot of surveys, quite a lot of research about the experience of people age 50 plus, and the kind of cumulative effect of somebody having had mental health difficulties most of their adult life. 2 members of the group in particular really identified with that because they were older themselves, and the other member was able to kind of look from the point of view of projecting into the future and what things might be like then. I think their stories were really key. It was important that the play wasn't just about experiences that were parachuted in from the other group, from the Age in Mind activists, but we're also tapping into some of their own experiences, and that the things that people had said to them by professionals or by family and friends, or just in their different walks of life, things that had been said to them, we were able to use them as script. We were able to put them into the play. We performed at the Scottish Parliament, which was a really great experience. So we'd been given the research material by Age in Mind, and then we'd worked on it ourselves, putting in our own material. And when we went to that reception, we heard the talks that people gave, and it just dovetailed so well. So we knew that we were on the right track. We knew that we'd taken their research material and had made it into something that really touched on the things that they wanted us to do. So that felt like a real success.
Of course, on top of that, we've had the big events. So we've had the 2 community festivals that we had in May each year at Out of the Blue. On top of that, we've had the Central Company, who've created the piece called The Fairgrounds, and we have performed that in various venues, including taking it to the Workers' Theatre Weekender in Glasgow, which was a really fascinating chance to perform that piece as well. So lots of opportunities to do more with what we've got. So the Spect-Act Festival was in May 2017, and that was kind of a culmination of the project. We had the festival performances to go as well, but that felt like a big end point to the project. So we had the Active Inquiry Company, then we had the Bethany Company, the Shakti Company, and the Alma Company all performing their pieces and all seeing each other's pieces. We also importantly had food and a chance for audience to share. We had an exhibition up. We had a kind of interactive artwork that people could interact with and make, which was to do with linking some of the issues that they'd seen. And we had a choir speaking, so we had lots of things going on. It was a real kind of dynamic event. And what was great about that event for me was that not only did the groups get to really experience and see each other's work, but local audiences for those groups got to come along and be part of those conversations and see each other's work as well. So people that wouldn't normally come to the theatre got to come and not only see the group they were interested in or the people that they knew, they got to see that other work as well. And we had some fascinating debates across that weekend because of that fact, really. And then on the Sunday, we also had a kind of workshop, which was people using the theatre of the oppressed across different places and across different disciplines got to come together and discuss some of those issues to do with the theatre of the oppressed in Scotland and actually from England as well today.
I think the most important thing is that people know that there are this number of people interested in theatre of the oppressed in Scotland, in quite a small area, using it in those different contexts. So first of all, the important thing is just the sense of solidarity. I think that actually there is that interest and enthusiasm for this work in all those different contexts, and that perhaps we can begin to connect up. So certainly networking, certainly building those connections across the different contexts. Theatre of the Oppressed for me is very much about trying to connect knowledges, and that's about different perspectives, but it's also about connecting up mind and body and communicating our knowledge that we have in our bodies as well as our minds. So instead of just talking about these questions, we're exploring them through our bodies as well.
And then we've had the Just Festival performances recently as well. So all of those performances have attracted kind of an audience of well into the hundreds, you know, who have seen these pieces, and hopefully that's had an effect. The beauty about Forum Theatre is that you're not just asking for audience response afterwards, the audience are responding in the middle of the piece, you know, so you get all of that feedback straight away and can then make those changes necessary. The future for the company, I think for all the companies involved in the Spect-Act project, is to continue making relevant work that they want to work with, continue taking that work to local audiences who would never normally come to the theatre. But I think the next stage for us is to try to make some links in with politicians and policymakers, or those people that are social workers, or that are in housing, so that we're not just talking to those people who are continually coming up against this, we're actually trying to have dialogue with decision makers to change these processes and how these work. So I really think that as a group, that's where we want to go. And the other thing we want to do as a group, and all the groups have said this, is to have more theatricality about what we do, you know. So of course I think we've made some excellent pieces of theatre, but we have now, with these companies, we have the opportunity to do a lot more with lighting and sound, and work with writers and work with set designers, and really kind of develop ourselves as theatre companies.
It's given me more confidence, and that's been quite honest with you. It's given me more confidence. Socialising and performing. I tell people about like, say, I go to a drama group and they say, good on for you. At least that you're doing something, and at least that, like, say, you're giving it a bash. You didn't try, you didn't get anywhere. As easy as that.
Well, I think for anybody with probably any mental health condition, but certainly bipolar, it is good to be able to express your feelings in some way or another. And it seems to me that art and drama are really good ways of doing that.
It has helped me in a lot of different ways that I couldn't even imagine. I was feeling lost, and I was feeling like I was alone, and coming to the group and doing the drama group and everything else, it's made me feel alive.
The process of working with others, getting other people's points of view, you learn a lot. Stuff that I've learned with the group, I've also been able to take into my recovery as well, and vice versa.
None of us have these skills before. I mean, at least we may have it, but we didn't know that we have them. So it's kind of discovery about yourself as well. So in that way, it has helped me.